Saying not yet. Here we go. Welcome to live streaming. We're going to deconstruct Singer's genius, and I mean genius. Now, I know the poster that I put up here, and I don't have it to show you again, but you can see it there on YouTube, is I'm kind of challenging the idea that great singers are perfect. And I'm not trying to say that they aren't in their own way, but the misconception about perfect is perfectly on beat and perfectly on pitch. It's got to be perfectly on pitch, got to be perfectly on rhythm. I know I've got echo coming through your system. Let me just make sure it's not coming through FarPlay because it might be. We checked this, folks, and it wasn't happening, but you know how that goes. Check, check, check. Let's see if I can get rid of that. Check, check, check. There we go. Nope, still there.
Oh, it's solved?
It's got to be going, no, it's got to be going through your phone because that's the only open source there is. So, you know, we were online, folks, before this happened, and then we went live, and whammo bammo, we got echo. So welcome to today's technology. Yeah, there we go. Thanks. Okay. No, it's better. It's better. I can put up with that. If everybody else can. I don't even know. The audience may not even be able to hear it. But okay, anyway, we're back to explaining why we're here. And we're going to show you what real perfection is, meaning what it is that you're responding to that you love so much when you listen to a great singer. And Tony is my guest today. He's also a professional singer. Yeah, hi, Tony. And he's here in Vegas performing all the time. Check him out. He's on Facebook. And he'll pop up wherever else when he's ready. Because, you know, social marketing is so much. And probably, so Tony, do you do most word of mouth around here, or how do you get your work?
Yeah, pretty much mostly word of mouth and Facebook, which I can't really say is all that successful.
Yeah, I was going to say, who needs Facebook if you got word of mouth?
Yeah.
But times are a changing, right? So
They are, but you know, fortunately, there's a good network out here, and the more I'm playing, the more people I'm meeting, the more we all tend to support each other, which is nice.
That's great. So my fingers crossed that other people who are advertising don't beat you out, because there's the well, it's just like hospitals putting up billboards. You know, I mean, that was strictly word of mouth as early as maybe 20 years ago. I don't have my time frame right, I'm sure, but wow, hospitals, you know, billboards, come see our doctors. Look how cute he is, you know, it's like, or a darling, how sexy, you know, this nurse is, or whatever. I mean, come on, but it's taken over. So we won't go into all that because that has nothing to do with why we're here, except for we love Tony. We want to talk about him. So he has selected Frank Sinatra as a guest artist. And we're going to take a look at the way Frank sings one particular phrase of a song, and then we're going to look at how it's different than the music theory idea of perfect. And, you know, I know this is very controversial, and I understand if people are getting a little upset about what I'm saying, music teachers and voice teachers, whoever's teaching music, but written music has been gone for a long time. Even the universities in the jazz departments know that you can't swing with written music. You have to have the feel of swing in order to read swing. In other words, they put it down, but you can't really feel it by reading it. So I'm just talking about today's commercial feel. The pocket is still important. The rhythm section is still important. If the band is totally confused underneath my vocal, I'm going to have a lot of trouble. I mean, I still think the rhythm section needs to be together. Background vocals are usually melodyned or auto-tuned because they still want that background rhythm section feel. Some don't, but most do. So I'm not putting that down. I'm just adding on to it and saying that when we want to learn from contemporary singers, and this is Frank Sinatra recordings back in the 60s. It's how long, it's been around longer than that. But what we're going to study with Frank is not that much different than what you would put on with Justin Bieber. It's still very much the same type of concept. You've got to feel what they're doing, in other words, learn by ear, in order to learn anything from any of them. We can't use music theory. So I won't belabor that point anymore. So, Tony, tell me why you picked Frank Sinatra. What is it that you're particularly excited about with him?
It just seems his phrasing is so unique
Hmm.
and so difficult to emulate. And when I'm trying to sing one of his tunes, um, it's coming across as me, which is fine. I like to come
Oh,
across
sure.
as me, but there are times I would like to actually emulate the original a little bit more closely sometimes. And Sinatra is just so unique with the way he phrases.
Do you know a little bit about the history of how he learned to phrase?
I do not.
He claims, he gives credit to saxophone players of the
Hmm.
day. He listened to the way they phrased and imitated it. And I don't know, there's a saying in the music industry about particular kinds of genius, if you will, and they say some people have particularly good ears. And what they're trying to explain is that when they hear something, they pick up a lot of stuff that most of us miss. And so he may have just been one of those people who really picked up the fact that these saxophone players were improvising.
Hmm.
Now, it doesn't say much about how he learned to improvise himself because I know he is improvising because if you listen to 4 or 5 recordings of the same song that he did, you'll hear a difference every time. So he's got to be improvising. So what that means, everyone, is that if we like the studio version and that's the one we memorize, and then we put on a live recording, we'll go, what happened? Why did he change it? He's got it wrong now. Our brains get imprinted with the original studio session. But what we know from that is that means that when Frank was in the session in the studio at that time, that was his improv. He may have sang it 20 times, but that was the particular one that they chose. And this is a very old recording, so most of I don't know how much editing they did on stuff like this, but it was also on a TV program. So I think it's pretty much really live. I mean, as live as it could be those days, meaning we could hear it through our TV speakers. And even now, I'm listening to it on my headphones. So we always have to keep in mind that there's a media involved in all this. And I was impressed with Frank because you could tell he was just singing out to a mic that was just hanging over his head. That's the way they did it back in the old TV days. It sounded pretty damn good. I hope saying "damn" didn't put me in the no child portion of this, but anyway, I'll be more careful. Um, what is there anything in particular? I mean, I know you said he's very unique, but is there anything that particularly grabbed your attention?
Um, when he enters a phrase, the way he carries it through, and his I don't want to say his accent, but his pronunciation and inflections on specific words that he puts it on for whatever the mood was at that moment. It's always just slightly out of anything you would expect to happen in a normal flow.
I love that, and you mentioned his pronunciation. That's something that doesn't get talked about enough either, because he didn't use the kind of diction that choir people teach, and choir people should teach it, or musical theater teach, and they should teach it in musical theater, or opera. All those styles are non-microphone styles, and if you don't over-pronunciate your syllables, your syllabants, then no one can hear them because they're 200-300 feet away. But the system called a microphone and sound system has obliterated that issue. You could you could hear singers a mile away. Outdoor concerts, right? You're driving down the freeway. Whoa, listen, there's old REO Speedwagon. It's like, wow. Um, but the point is that if we over pronunciate on microphones, it sounds really corny. And I think Frank had a feel for that because his diction was very clear, but it wasn't over pronunciated. It wasn't, I got the world. This, by the way, we're going to do I've Got the World on a String today, guys, girls. I got the world on a string. He didn't pronunciate that way, which is, again, legit if he was doing musical theater. But guess what? He was not doing musical theater. So I'm anxious to get into this then. Do you know anything else about his history other than what I mentioned?
I know a little bit about the his mom was a pretty big figure in Hoboken and how he grew up in Hoboken, and some of his earlier career with the big bands and how he sort of developed into Frank Sinatra as a performer as opposed to just Frank Sinatra from Hoboken. Uh, there's a couple of really interesting documentaries on his life that I've watched as well. I'm not a real I'm not like a Frank Sinatra head kind of guy, but
Right.
he's his entire career and the way he does everything was just always very interesting to me.
There was a claim about him having a voice teacher, but there wasn't anything specific about it. And my old mentor Seth Riggs was saying, "Yeah, so and so said Frank should come see me." So he was excited about that possibility, but as far as I know, Frank never did. Okay. What we're going to learn right now is going to help us much more than anything we could read or see in a biography anyway. And I'm not saying don't watch biographies, because I think there's some very interesting information. But we're going to use a product called Melodyne, which Tony now has at the greatest price I've ever heard. Did you get just the 5 version for $25?
Yeah.
Have you had a chance to play with it at all?
Not really. The last
That's all right.
week has been a bit overwhelming, but I'm digging into it as soon as I possibly can. I've been fiddling with it, but I haven't really been doing much in-depth work.
Did you buy it through, what's that company's name that sells all that stuff, guitars and everything? I bought it through them, and it helped me a lot. Do you remember was it actually a dealer you bought it through? Sweetwater.
No,
was it a deal through Sweetwater?
I actually got it through the outlet that handles Melodyne directly. I forgot the name of it. I'm sorry. I'll look it up.
Well, maybe they have a good customer support, but Sweetwater has a great customer support, and they really saved my butt trying to get through this thing. And of course, it's like everything else. Once you know how to use it, it's no big deal. All right, so I imagine you all have questions. If you want to try to chat, go ahead. I'm not really watching that, because this is really more of a voyeur experience. You just get to watch and see how the vocal muse technique system works as I teach it. And then later on, I'll talk about how you can get a video program of it if you're really excited about it. So it doesn't really matter whether you're here or not. You can watch this anytime you feel like it. All right, so we're going to share screen. And by the way, if you guys want to promote yourselves, StreamYard is a great product. They're not paying me to say that, but it is. Okay, share screen. There it is. Okay, put up on the stage. There you go. How's that look? Pretty good?
Looks great.
Tony? All right, good.
Perfect.
Looks good on my end too. All right, so I'm just going to put this in front of me. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to play this one little phrase so that you can get a feel of what we're talking about. It's the first line of the song, and the reason I picked it is because everybody will have a better chance, even if you're only 10 years old, of possibly remembering the song because this was a huge hook and it's been used who knows how many millions of times throughout the world. So here we are, just listening.
I've got the world on a string, and I'm sitting on a rainbow.
Okay, so that's really nice that we can just play it. Now, you might be thinking, Brad, where's the music? Well, I hid it. No, kidding. One of the greatest advances of the 21st century in music is a thing called the stem splitter. And you can find them just about everywhere. And sometimes they come in your upgrades. I think Logic, if you upgrade your Logic, it'll be there for free. But basically what it allows you to do is to split the vocal, and this was a mono recording, I'm sure. I didn't check it. I don't know how it could have been stereo because it was before stereo was around, but they were able to actually split Frank's voice from the music, and this is what you were hearing. His voice, as if I had gotten the original recording from the studio and removed the music and just had his voice. That would have cost, probably wouldn't even have been available to me. So we love this, at least I do as coaches, because it gives us a chance to, again, study what it is we really want to know, because why do we want to know why Justin Bieber does what he does, or Rihanna does what she does, or Streisand does what she does, or even Pavarotti, how he does what he does. We want to know because we want to make it part of our art. And when you think about it, many times when these people are interviewed, these stars, someone will say, well, how did you get your style? And they'll say, well, I was influenced by, and they'll rattle off some singers that they grew up with 20 years ago, or maybe even somebody new that they're influenced by. I know I was influenced a lot by the Beatles and Stevie Wonder and Al Jarreau and various artists of my time. And I'm still being influenced by Post Malone and Justin Bieber and so forth because I've got my ears on. I'm always listening. I'm always like, wow, that's cool. How are they doing that? So anybody can use this information. If you're a celebrity and you see this and you want to use this information, get together with your mix engineer if you don't understand how to use Melodyne, and have them take you through some artists and pick up some ideas. It's we're not ripping anybody off. We're just learning. Same way, it's just an advanced learning from the way of just putting on a record and singing along, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Okay, so I'm going to explain what we're looking at here. I always try to come up with this word lovingly in the music industry. These things right here are called blobs. Right? Okay, we like that, blobs. But I'm going to expand this screen so I can see it a little bit better. Doesn't look like it's going to let me do that right now because I'm online. Anyway, okay, so if Frank had sang this song exactly on pitch and exactly on rhythm, we would see different things than we're looking at right now. Now, what is this gray box? It's kind of telling us this is what is on beat and on pitch. So you see right here on this black line, this is where the rhythm starts. Well, you see, he doesn't start right on the beat like it's not 1, 2, 3, 4, I got the world. It's not like that. He comes in when he feels like it, which is, I'm going to put this on 16th notes so you can see a little bit more of how close he is to doing it his own way. Okay, so now we have these little squares right here, and each one of these represents a 16th note. Maybe some of you may not know what I'm talking about, but you can learn, and maybe this will pique your interest on maybe learning a little bit about music theory. So this is counted out, 1 E and a, it's like, but there's also, there's 16th notes in a one beat. 1 E and a, that's only 4. I just confused myself, Tony. Help me out. Oh, he's taking the time. Anyway, point is here is that Frank is coming in right in the middle of this 16th note. If you tried to figure out exactly when Frank came in by looking at a chart, this would be very difficult to say, okay, I'm coming in right here. Anyway, Frank, can you help? Tony, can you help me with why all of a sudden I can't figure out how this is counted? 16th notes in one bar? There's 16 of them, right? So how do you do that? Because I always think of, I'm thinking of the whole bar. Yeah, okay, so there's 4 beats in a bar. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 16th notes are counted 1 E and a 2 E and a, yeah, there we go, thank you. Sometimes I just have to clear out the cobwebs. So my point is, rhythmically, he's not coming right in on the beat, even this little inflection right here. Neither is he ending right on the beat. And, considering this is like 1, 2, I got the world on a string. That's pretty slow, all right? So 16th notes are pretty slow as well. And he's got lots of time to play with the beat, and so he is. And same thing here, and I'm not going to belabor every detail here, but this one is almost on, probably the consonant is on. This one is definitely early. This one's late. This one's on the beat, and this one's on the beat. So I'm not saying that they're always off beat. I'm saying they're playing with the beat. The rhythm section, of course, is on beat, and we'll talk about that later when we bring in the music. But the other thing that is all misunderstood about pitch is that people also think that this should be perfectly on pitch. So it would be, let me listen to it again.
I've got the world on a string.
See, so that would be, I've got, excuse me, hoarse like Tony. I've got the world on a string. That would be like technique. I've got the world on a string. See, that's written music. I've got the world on a string. Well, if Frank had done that, he wouldn't be Frank Sinatra. So is that bad? No. If you're musical theater and opera and theater, especially choir, I would say that you should sing the way I just sang. But for this style of music, no. And so how do we learn this? That's going to be our next topic. But again, I want you to notice he goes, ah. You see these little slide things here. These are the way Melodyne describes him sliding up to the pitch and sliding off. Let's listen to those 2 words.
I've got the world.
You see, so it's, I've got. Now, it's interesting right there because I've is flat, but got is on. Now, there's another thing that I can do to show you the pitch. Right in these two squares right here, these rectangles, you're going to see a number come in when I click on this. Okay, so that's B3 on the piano, and he is 34% flat. Does that blow your mind? Blows mine. Really? We just listened to that. We've loved it. We thought it was incredible, and it's 30 for. I mean, that's almost 50% off pitch. Wow. But then he comes here, and he's 17% sharp. Here we go. We're here. 30% sharp again. Now, these little things in here are representative of vibrato. And in classical music, which I really didn't literally study, but Seth Riggs was into it, so he taught me that a vibrato should be even and six times per second. Well, Frank blows that all out of the water here. And then there's all kinds of inflections here. This one is on pitch, only 6% sharp, I would call on pitch. See, what is that? Yeah, there's a C. And it's pretty much right on the beat. But again, this information will not really help you learn from him. We'll get to that later. And then so he's sliding off of here, so you hear that, right? Got the world on a string. And then I love these little things here that you don't hear unless you see them on Melodyne. You see this little guy right here? It's like, where did that happen? I don't know. Let's listen and see if we can hear it.
I've got the world on a string.
Right there. So, and this is at real tempo. When we do it later, when we're using Audacity, we'll slow it down and we'll be able to hear it even better. But sometimes I don't really notice those things until I pull it up on Melodyne and I go, wow. And I haven't really been through this. In fact, I just picked it up about 10 this morning. Just kind of briefly went over it. I want this show to be as live as possible. I hope that you guys enjoy that part of it because you know you're getting reality here. It's as if you were in on this recording session with Tony and I. Okay, so right here, 57% flat. Okay, here, only 9%. 14% sharp. 27% flat, and look at this vibrato, how uneven and kind of out of. I mean, like this one's much louder than these two. It comes in kind of soft, gets medium loud, then it gets really loud here. Now again, he glissandos off here using the old Italian terms. In other words, he slides off here, and then this is going to be fun to listen to. This is really erratic here. Yeah, ring, like two notes right there. But he did come on pretty much on pitch. That's only minus 2% flat. Let's see where he is here.
Rainbow.
Now, I would say that's a different pitch, but Melodyne didn't pick that up. So it's not perfect, guys, but this is still incredible. This blew my mind when I got a chance to actually do this. I did do some vocal production with it, where I was the producer, and I went through it with engineers. But I knew what he was doing, but I never actually used it before. And, of course, mix engineers use this for editing. So if I was a mix engineer and I got a hold of this, I would be able to go in and change these pitches. Now, I don't know how because I don't want to. I want to see Frank as he is, and it's one of the reasons I picked a live recording, by the way. This is live on TV, as I mentioned earlier. And this is what we want to see. What is this man actually doing, and why do we love it? Let's listen one more time, and then we'll move on.
I've got the world on a string, and I'm sitting on a rainbow.
Bow. Now, I heard two notes when I clicked on this.
Rainbow.
Oh, it's rainbow. Yeah, okay, that's there. Yeah. It just doesn't show it. But that's interesting. That's probably right in here. A rainbow. But, you know, as Frank is sliding through things, it makes it more and more difficult for Melodyne to figure out exactly what he's doing. But this information proves to us with our own eyes that perfect pitch and perfect rhythm is not the goal. All right. We're done with Melodyne. Thank you, Melodyne. Any questions about that, Tony?
No, I do have to say I love the fact, I never noticed it either, that he does that full octave drop in the 16th note, in 1/16. He was amazing with his style. He really was.
When you start looking at other artists, you may also see it where they start an octave lower and slide up. And this one song that we went through with Ken, it's out there in my YouTube channel. She goes, and you didn't hear that. I'm gonna, and I pulled it up on Melodyne, and there was that little blob showing us that she started on, I think she started on C and went up an octave. It's like, whoa, where did that come from? But I think what you can learn from that, Tony, what I've learned from it, is that it's a speaking style. And when we talk, and when we talk, who knows how Melodyne would have seen that? And when we talk, I don't know. Was that a full octave? I don't know. But the modern singers sing with speech patterns assigned to music. And then, of course, recreated many, many different times for different styles and so forth. Does that make sense to you, Tony? And anyone else listening? Okay, let's take a look at, I was going to pull up sheet music, but I didn't have time today. But if you did, again, I kind of sang it as if it was sheet music earlier. I've got the world on a string, however it was written. Could be. Right? So that would be right on beat and right on pitch. Now, I'm going to tell you one of the reasons that I discovered this problem. Because back in the day, when I was really young, and I used to walk through the snow 20 miles to get to school. No kidding. But sometimes it feels like it. Back in the 80s, when I was Seth's partner and we were doing a lot of vocal technique and people bring in songs and wanted technique corrections in their songs, we would have a pianist there because we didn't have minus tracks. There was no karaoke to speak of. At least it wasn't easily available. And so the pianist would play and the singer would sing, and the pianist would be playing their notes, and if the singer was off pitch with the piano, we would stop them and say, oh, you're off pitch here. You got to correct that pitch. And it always left me feeling like there was something wrong, though, because if you learn a little bit about my background, you'll know that I started in rock music when I was 12 years old. I started imitating the Monkees and Tommy Shundell and, playing bass and then playing guitar and screwing around with the drums a little bit just to try to get this crazy feel called rock and roll. And everything had to be learned by ear. So when these singers were singing right along with the piano in perfect pitch and perfect rhythm, I felt like we were doing them a disservice. I didn't know there was no other option, frankly, unless that singer was so good that we could do a cappella. And I did see a video where the voice teacher was trying to show him teaching a celebrity. We won't go into any names, that's not fair. But he sang this line from the song, and I thought, well, that sounds really boring. And then she sang it, but what was interesting is when she sang it with feel. And so she really didn't repeat what he did, so I'm not really sure what he was getting at. I don't know if it was technical or rhythmic, or I'm not sure it was unclear as to what he was trying to get her to feel or think. But when she sang it, it sounded like top 40 pop music. When he sang it, it did not sound that way at all. So if your student is sharp enough in that area, then you can give them classical information and then they can convert it. If I'd done that to Tony, I'm sure he'd convert it in heartbeat because he's very experienced. When did you start playing rock and roll or whatever, when you started learning music?
That was probably
you're
around
there.
18 years old. So that was around the mid-'80s I started really trying to dig into it for a while. Then I did it professionally, and then I did it sort of semi-professionally when I had another career, and then now I'm back to just doing it all professionally. So that would mean I've been doing
did you? Yeah, right. So, were you part of the MIDI age, or did that bypass? Did you not get into that later?
No, I dove into the MIDI age too. The early MIDI when you'd have to assign numbers and do things note for note and all of that, and build your own tracks and build your own. Yeah, definitely.
And then quantize it. And you quantized it. What is that?
Yeah.
I have to say I did get into that because again I was looking for tracks that didn't have a pianist reading sheet music, and so I had understood from MIDI it was a mid to late 80s. So I was putting stuff in the MIDI player. It was Alesis, and then I had the pianist come in and put some tracks in and so forth. And then that way I could still like change keys and change tempos and things like that. That's always been a part of my coaching. So yeah, it's really cool. Our backgrounds are very similar. So Tony knows exactly what I'm talking about. Some of my students do not, and some of you do not. They're listening to this. Okay, so I think we've kind of covered that. Any questions up to that point, Tony? All right, so how do we learn from Frank? This becomes the next big question. And the solution is called a DAW, short for DAW. If there's not enough acronyms in your life, there's a new one. It's like, I don't want to hear another acronym. but it just means digital audio workstation. And literally speaking, this kind of tech, kind of like Melodyne, is mostly used for recording original music or constructing a pop song from scratch, putting in your own bass line, your own drums, so forth, your own rearrangement. But Brad comes along and says, no, I'm not going to use it for that. I'm going to use it for coaching. So here we go. I'm going to pull this up on the screen for you guys to see. And I may not always be real happy with tech, but I love it. Sometimes it just drives me out of my mind, though. I just like, what are you guys trying to do to me? Okay, there it is. Now I'm going to, if I can make can I make this bigger? I think, yeah, I can make this bigger. Just for my, let's see, I've got to make sure it doesn't completely befuddle what you guys are looking at. No, that should be good. Okay. So we have 2 tracks here, and I use the stem splitter. So this first track here is music only, and the second track is Frank only. But we're going to use them as they were originally recorded. I'm not going to separate them for this particular lesson. So what do we need to do here? We need to listen to Frank again with the music. So let's just start from the very beginning and just kind of check out what's going on here. So we're just listening.
I've got the world on a string, and
Okay, that's all as far as we're going to go. He said, really, Brad? That's all? Well, you'll understand why very shortly here as to why I only picked that much. With Melodyne, it was easy to go a little longer, but for what we're trying to do here, we need to really keep things short. Not for time's sake, but for learning's sake. And we'll talk a little bit about neural patterns as we go along, if I remember. As you can see, I'm an improvisational speaker, so I try to remind myself of things, but I might miss a thing or two. But you get my real personality, you get my motivational way of doing things, and so it's worth it to not have it strictly spoken in a lecture. All right, so what I usually do with Audacity, Tony, is I find a place a few seconds before the vocal actually starts, and I draw what's called a pencil here in Audacity. All you have to do is click on the waveform, and it creates one. Now, when I click play, when it comes to the end of the phrase, I'm going to click pause. You'll see why.
I've got the world on a string.
Okay. Actually, that's all we did on Melodyne. I forgot. Never mind. So now I have 2 spots, 2 lines right here. So I'm going to highlight them. And this didn't come out quite the way I wanted to, so I'm going to do it again. Let's see. And Tony already knows this, but for all of you, working with recording stuff is a trial and error. Always trial and error. Okay, so let's play this again.
I've got the world on a string.
Okay. Now I've got the 2 lines to highlight this. Just a footnote, Audacity calls this scrubbing because apparently that's the word they used to use when they used analog tape. I never knew that. Okay, now when I highlight, I have to make sure that I highlight both channels, or later on we'll be in trouble. Now we can do what's called looping here. So we click here, and then we have these 2 little bookmarks, and that tells me that I've got automation on, and I don't have to click pause and stop and pause and stop, and I can just listen. So the biggest part of my theory here, or actual practical application, is listening is far more important than than singing along. Frank, I'll bring this up for myself, and then you can bring in your own experience like we did last time when we had our live stream. So when I used to try to learn a song, I would just drop the needle if I had the words already. Just drop the needle and sing along. And, maybe that night I had to sing it, so I wouldn't have time to do all this. But I just sang along and memorized, and then I went out and performed it. And whether I was really singing like the original artist or not, I don't know. I have no way of verifying what I used to do. So I know that both Frank and I as musicians, however, did not do that as musicians. When we wanted to learn a part of a solo, especially an improvisational solo, well, it doesn't matter whether it was written or improvisational, we would listen a couple of times, and then we would grab the instrument, see if we could kind of match part of it, and then we would drop the needle if we were using vinyl and do it again until we had a pretty good copy of what we were listening to. How did you do it, Frank? I'm Tony. I'm going to call you Frank from now on. Just like I called you John. I'm so sorry about that the other day.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. I was a cassette guy, play.
Oh, okay,
pause,
yeah,
rewind,
either way, yeah.
Play, pause, rewind, pause, play.
That's good. You didn't ruin your records like we did.
Yeah, but
we
the
did.
same way, and, it was even a matter of lyrically having to find the actual lyrics and even guess on some of them, because some of them obviously weren't very clear, and then try to find the piano part and try to get everything together. So it was, each song would take hours just to research before you really got a chance to dig in and practice it the right way.
Could you slow it down in those days?
No,
I
I
think
didn't have anything that could. There was a way to. There was a little micro recorder that you can get, and it would play at 2 speeds. Remember that?
Yeah, but 2 speeds is like a large difference, right? Yeah, like from on to 50% slower, or maybe even 100% slower. Yeah, and then it changed the pitch too. Yeah, so it changed the pitch, right?
Yeah.
So I guess you just learned it at the original tempo then, and the original pitch?
Always.
That's what I did with vinyl. Again, some of these things I'm showing you, everyone, has actually been around for a while, and I put this program together about 20 years ago and started teaching it, and then eventually made the video program. It works. I use it all the time with my students, and especially like if someone who's actually a really good singer already, but they want to learn some riffing that is like really fast that the original artist did, like Christina Aguilera or somebody like that, who's picked it up in her own way, and then my students hearing it on the record, and they're going, "How do you do that?" Well, when you slow it down, it's a lot easier. Instead of hearing, you hear, and so, oh, that's what she's doing. Oh, okay, now I've got something I can put my teeth into and learn it, and then I can speed it back up. So that's another application we won't get into today because this is not that fast. Okay, but again, with Audacity here, when we get to it, we'll be able to change the tempo, and it won't change the pitch. And if we want to, we can change the pitch without changing the tempo. So digital has separated those two functions for us. So thank you, digital, from a learning perspective. I know there's a lot of arguments about what sounds better, but from a learning experience, digital it rocks. All right, so we're going to listen to this in the original tempo just to see what we can hear in the original tempo. So if I was giving, well, I am giving Tony homework. So Tony, if you want to learn this, first thing you do is once you've isolated it on your DAW, which would probably be Logic for you, or is it Logic or Pro Tools? Yeah, Logic. You'd want to listen 20 or 30, maybe 40 times.
Okay.
Now, people always drop their jaw when I say that. 40 times, like I've just told them to walk 10 miles, right? But what we'll be showing you here, and what my students actually understand once they start doing that, is that even after 40 times, you're wondering what you missed. There's a lot of information in here, and this is why music theory won't help us, because it can't draw down into this information. What I'm going to be talking about is you have to learn it by feel, just like anything else you've learned by ear. All right, but for here, we're just going to play it a couple of times and just see what it's like at the original tempo.
got the world on a string. I've got the world on a string. I've got the world on a string. I've got the world on a string.
So cool.
I've got the world on a string.
And by the way, everyone, that's called swing. You know, it's like, is that the right time? I've got the dial on a string. Yeah, about that. So in that rhythm, there's this implication of I've got the world on a string. There's that swing in there, and you can't miss that. You got to give the feel for that. All right, so we've picked up a couple of things. I've done a lot of this, and we just watched it on Melodyne, which helped. So I was able to hear the he's like a guitar player bending the note. We talked about how he may have learned from saxophone players. They bend notes too. In fact, they think they were bending notes before guitar players were. So it's I've got, and then there he goes up just a little bit on that pitch. I've got the world. It's so fast, but they're not the same note. He says, there's this bend, there's a note. I've got the world. And then you hear the I've got the world, those little slides that we saw. I've got the world on a string. And then we got to hear that because we saw it on Melodyne. String. So Melodyne helps with this. But this is what listening does. You get to hear all of these little things. And again, I can't tell you music theory exactly what he's doing. Even with Melodyne, it would drive me crazy to try to learn what he's doing with even being able to see it on a screen. So that's why I go back to the 30, 40 times of listening, because you have to integrate. What does that mean? That means you have to absorb. You have to become a Frank Sinatra sponge and feel what he's doing until you can imitate it. And that's the next part of this. But we're not going to stay at this tempo because I already know from my teaching experience that that was too much information for most people. So we go to, you won't be able to see it here on the share screen, unfortunately, but I'm going to effect, and then I'm going to call pitch tempo. Actually, you know what? I'm also going to do a volume change on this thing because this could be much louder. 16%. There we go. Now we can see the waveform a little better. Okay, so now we're going to go to tempo, which is where I was heading. And both Tony and I are men, so this key is just fine for us. Later on in the song it gets a little higher, so maybe we play with the key a little bit, but for now I think this is good. Change tempo. Now you get this little screen here. Just a footnote, always check this little mark here because Audacity is really good at a nice clean playback on slow tempos or even fast tempos if you use this. But if you don't, there's a lot of artifacts that are a little bit ugly to hear. And then we always preview. Just got to make sure we're in the right spot. We know kind of what we're doing. I'm never going to say I know what I'm doing because computers don't work that way. But here we go. We're previewing.
I've got the world on a string.
I have no idea how that got so loud, guys. That should not have happened. Well, let me apply it, and then I'll... Oh, I know how it happened. Okay, it's because I amplified it.
On my end, it actually was pretty good.
Oh, okay. On mine, it about blew my headphones off. Yeah, okay. That means there's some kind of logic in there or analog controlling what you guys are hearing.
Okay.
So probably when I turn it down for my own ears, it'll probably still be good for you. But you let me know if it gets too quiet. Okay. It's another reason I love having a guest because it's kind of like having a producer. Anyway, okay, so I've slowed this down. So you'll see these little marks here have changed. The blue is, the highlight is changed. So we take these little, what I call bookmarks, and just slide that over so that now my looping is covered. See, I've got from beginning to end. Because what happens, the way they do this in slowing it down is it's called stretching. So they've actually stretched out the waveform. If you notice sometimes when you do that, this line here will change from, say, 155 to 210. So that's how they do it, is to stretch the waveform. All right, so now we're listening to 25% slower. That's what I picked. It's just arbitrary. Maybe we'll go to 40%. We'll have to figure that out as we go along. Here it comes.
I've got the world on a string. I've got got the world on a string.
So easy to hear the string part now.
I've got the world on a string. I've got the world on a string. I've got the world on a string.
Okay, so so I don't just not make it so you don't have to think. What things did you hear that time that surprised you, or that you want to know?
The detail of how he holds his vowels into the next word, and then all of his cutoffs and his attacks are all smooth, and there's no "I've got the world." There's no staccato. Everything is smooth and connected, and I love the way he ends his phrase with a swing.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if we can find a rap version.
I'm sure have done.
Yeah.
I'm sure someone's done it.
Then it would be sharp and broken. Anything else?
Not yet. No.
Okay, so one of the things I noticed, and this part of it, you have to be a little bit careful, but it's okay to learn it at a slow tempo, but his vibrato is very slow, of course. Right. And that would not necessarily be what you'd want to be doing when it gets back up to the original tempo. But that's really kind of covered. But I hear this, I've got the world. It's like world on a string. So it's interesting to hear that too. And again, I showed you on Melodyne how it's kind of erratic. So you can pick up more of that with the slow tempo. Again, I having been through this process myself many times, I know that if I was trying to figure out the rhythm, I would not be able to think it through. Pitch, I can kind of think through what's going on here, but the rhythm, I would have to do the 30, 40 times listening myself. But I definitely noticed it was not, I've got the world on a string. It's definitely not that. So what is it? Again, in my experience, and if somebody out there knows music theory better than I do, and they can chop this up and tell me how it works in music theory, I would certainly be willing to listen. But in my own experience, every time I tried to do that, I could not figure out when he came in, when he ended, and when he came into the next part, when he ended. I was just like, I had no idea without, even in math, I probably could do it. Like, okay, he started on the 32nd note here, and he ended on the 64th note here. And it's like, that would drive me crazy. So what I adopted here is that after I've listened 30, 40 times, then I would sing along with it a few times. Now, why would we sing along? Well, because that's how we verify whether we have learned from him or not. It's called creating a unison. Tell me about unison, Tony.
Well, when you're singing along with someone else and you're not perfectly aligned, it's just not connecting. But once you've come together, it creates its own tone by combining both pitches and both vocals at the exact same time, unison together throughout the whole thing. So it actually changes the tonality of it, but it maintains the singular vocal sound with the double tone. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's great. That's a little more sophisticated, which is great because who knows who's listening and who wants to know what. I just describe it as when I feel like I can't hear Frank anymore while I'm singing, nor can I hear myself, then it's like I've created a third voice, which you mentioned. You bring all those little factors together. And actually that will become a little bit more obvious as the demonstration continues. But that verifies that I am, in fact, integrated into what Frank is doing. And then what we do is we record, but we'll get back to that next. So I'm going to put myself on the chopping block here and just say, okay, for right now, I'm the student. So I've listened to it a couple of times. Now I'm going to try to sing along and see how close to the unison I get. I've got the world on a string. I've got the world on a string. Now, see, I just learned something here, and I'm going to undo this work that I've done here. I need more introduction before the vocal starts, because I had no idea when he was coming in. And that means I need some rhythm to relate to. Oops, redo import. Okay, so I'm going to come back a little bit here, and I'm going to start here actually. So I'm going to do my start playing here, and then well, this is already marked, but I'll click pause when I get there. Somehow I've lost 2 tracks. Oh, I know what happened. See, redo import. There it is. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, this earlier work that I did. Okay, so I'm going to start here at the beginning. See, one thing you can do sometimes is you can see these little blobs. They'd be called that on Audacity too. It kind of gives you a rhythm spot as to when that comes in. It's still pretty rubato, so I don't know if I'll figure it out exactly, but we'll give it a try. I'm going to start here. So they're slowing down. So it's still in rhythm though. Okay, so now when I slow this down, it's going to actually probably create that mark for me. Let's move this back. These little triangles are separate from what you do in your highlighting. But again, the highlighting changes when you change the tempo. So see, I need to get it down here as well. Remember how I said you got to make sure you cover all tracks? We'll go to here. All right, now I'm going to go back to changing the tempo. I'll just do it. I've heard it before. All right, so you see these little marks changed a little bit. So we'll try it from here. You don't need to spend the entire day trying to make this perfect. I've got the... Nope, too early. Try it again. I'm going to turn him up some too now that he's not blasting us out. I've got the world on a string. I've got the world on a string. Ah, that's closer. One more time. I've got the world on a string. Not bad. Okay, so how do I verify what I think I just heard? This is where a DAW becomes really valuable again. A third track. Some of you have heard of that, some of you have not, but a third track is going to verify my ego, which is impossible, but we'll give it a try anyway. I'm going to record this time. Oh, time recording cannot be used while you have unsaved changes. Please save or close this project and try again. I have no idea what they're talking about, but I will do it anyway. So I'm going to just close this guy and start over because I know what I'm going to do anyway. No, I do not want to save the changes. Okay, so back to Audacity. I'll be right back, you guys. Oh, here he is. Okay. Right, all right, so.
I'm curious if that's proprietary to Audacity, because that doesn't happen on Logic. I remind you to save, but it doesn't stop me from making changes while I'm still working. That's
the first time I've ever seen that.
Yeah.
And that happens occasionally. It's like, what? Where did that come from? It happened to one of my students yesterday who's been using it for quite a while now. So I don't know. I'll be back online here in just a moment. I just wanted to.
They all have their own wonderful little quirks, don't they?
Yes, and that's why personally I do not suggest using a lot of different things. It's like, just learning one is enough, believe me. Okay, so I'm going to bring this online now you guys can see what I'm doing. And review never hurts. Anyway, share screen. And by the way, I'm going to offer, as the show gets more popular or as more people are interested in this besides my students, that if you want to be a guest on the show, contact me, and then you get to pick what song and what phrase you want to learn. And then I'll probably have to monetize that at some point. But while we're getting into this early on, you guys, you can probably get this information for free because you're helping me, supply a sales pitch in general without being too crass. All right, so I'm going to go back to this again. I'm going to make the whole thing louder this time. I think that will be easier. There we go. And you'll see, Tony, sometimes if you want to change anything in here, if you want to change all of it, you'll have to push Command or Control A to get both of these things highlighted. And once you've done that, then every change you make will affect the whole song. So I'm going to amplify this because for some reason the original recording was very weak. It's not a whole lot, but it's a lot easier to see here as you can tell. And it will make it louder, so I'm going to turn this down now. So I blast my own ears out. But so again, what I've learned so far, saving time, I can just click on here because that's the beginning of this blob, and then I can just highlight to where he's going. World on a string. I think it's about right here. Let's highlight both sides and check it. Checking. This is the original tempo.
I've got the world on a string.
Okay, that's far enough. All right, so I'll just highlight to there. Oops. There we go. Okay, now back to, got to get both sides. There we go. And now we're changing tempo. Since we're in learning mode here. And that particular one, 25% was slow enough for me. Do you want me to slow it down farther, Tony?
No, I think I was comfortable with it. Thank you.
All right. Okay, let's preview it. If I was on my own time, I would start from the beginning because there is a tempo, but I don't think you can find it unless you start at the very beginning. Okay, apply. All right, so I'm just singing one or two more times and then I'll record it. I've got the world on a string. All right, I'll record it. We'll go for that. We're not looking for perfection right now. I've got the world on a string. Okay, and now we can amplify this if you're not going to be an Audacity user, but for those who are, again, you're going to want to go in and pump up the amplification here. If you can't see what I'm doing, but you can read about it on Audacity. My video doesn't cover this problem because they didn't have it at the time I made the video. This is something new. All right, so here we are listening to me, and what I'm trying to accomplish here is unison with Frank, just to see if I learned what I wanted to learn. I've got the world on a string. Okay, so what did I learn from that? Well, I learned that I was early on the original cut in, and I've had people work on songs like this before, and it is kind of a problem, and in order to really get the exact feel that Frank used there, it would take a lot more listening because there isn't an actual beat that I can feel that I can go, okay, it's I've got there's just nothing there. It's just like kind of rubato. But after that, I was pretty close. But
yeah,
you can tell rhythmically mostly. Go ahead.
Would you be able to expand the waveforms to
probably
to get a title?
Oh yeah,
the waveform as a reference.
Yeah, kind of. I know Dave Liao, the customer support person for Farplay, saw me do this, and he works with a choir in London, and one of the singers was having a lot of trouble matching, and so he pulled it up on Audacity and had them just match it, and they were able to watch the waveform. He mentioned that they did that. Yeah, you can zoom in. I don't know. That's an interesting question. That might be too technical to learn from, but I'm not against it. But yeah, you see here, I'm a little late, definitely late here. Closer on there.
Oh,
Pretty
I'm not
good there.
seeing Audacity on
Oh.
the screen.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. I'm so glad you were here to tell me that.
There we
See,
go.
so many things for me to remember. Okay. So, yeah, you can see that I was early here because this is Frank. And this is another thing that's nice about the stem splitter. See, I've got him right here without having to look at this information here. I've got him right here. So I'm early here. I'm a little, this is probably, I'm late here. Pretty close here. It's a little hard to tell what's going on here. It's too much slurring. This is pretty close. I held this out a little longer than he does, and then this timing is pretty close here. But what I would suggest, if you can make sense out of that, I would use it. But for me, I would just go back to listening. I would listen to myself singing along with him, maybe 10, 15 times or more, and just kind of get a feel. So I'm just going to play it again. I've got the world on a string. Yeah, so what I would do after that, Tony, is then I would go back to listening and see where I missed. So I know that I came in early. Let me listen to that again. Yeah, I think I did. I was anticipating when he would come in, so I came in early. I've got the world. And then I was late on Got, wasn't I? Yeah, I was late on Got. So that makes sense because I was trying to catch up. Oh, wait a minute, where am I? And then I would go back and listen again and try to absorb what Frank's doing. And here's one of the principles people who are musicians will particularly understand. I hate to say this, singers, but musicians are a lot smarter than we are as a rule when it comes to music. Sometimes it gets in their way, but in this particular case, I'd say it just is an advantage if you're a musician. So if you're a singer thinking about learning to play some basic guitar or learning basic music theory from and playing the piano, because that's usually the way it's taught, I would highly recommend it. And if you're having a lot of pitch problems with this, or range issues, or like maybe your voice feels really uncomfortable, even though these notes are not very high, I would suggest private vocal training only. Please stay away from YouTube videos. I don't have one on vocal technique, and the reason is because if I did that, I would assume that you are a voice teacher. That, in other words, you would have to understand the exercise, what it does, and what it should feel like, and how it's done properly. Otherwise, who knows what you'd be doing with my suggestion. And I can't sleep at night knowing that. So I always recommend private coaching. If you want to try to find me, I got Farplay to do online. It works very well. Or if you want to be in person with someone and you're not in Las Vegas, or you like somebody else here in Las Vegas, I'm not pumping myself here. I'm just saying that vocal technique is still valuable. All we're working on here is phrasing, and this is the only reason I'm doing this is phrasing only. We're not going to talk about Frank's vocal technique or his breathing or anything like that because it's just not going to work. Sorry. Anyway, so that would be the way to do that. Going back to what I would do as a student is, again, I would listen, see if I could feel where he came in. And what I was just going to explain is that the reason you have to feel it is because if you try to think it, you'll either be ahead of him or behind him, just like I was. Because I was trying to think, when is he coming in? And that doesn't work for me. So that thought process of, okay, here he comes, either makes me late or makes me rush, or there he went. Again, I'm either going to cut off early or I'm going to go too long. And I'll pass all this information I had, and this was from a trumpet teacher. This was from an instrumental teacher. Very valuable information for singers as well. if you are having difficulty with rhythm and you've been in music for a while, odds are your rhythm problem is not rhythm. It's you're having difficulty either playing the instrument or singing what you're trying to learn to sing. And so what the brain does is it says, I don't feel comfortable when I go, if I was on the guitar, I'm going from my G position to my D position. I'm not comfortable with that yet, so I'm either going to rush or I'm going to be late. So again, the solution would be repetition is the mother of success. So going back to my guitar, G, D, G, D, G, D, G, D, until it was so comfortable that no matter what rhythm I was playing at, it would be right on. So again, assimilation, repetition and assimilation is what corrects all of the rhythm and pitch issues. My vibrato, of course, was a little faster than his because I wasn't trying to match it explicitly. But if I wanted to, again, I would take time, go back, assimilate. Okay, I really want to know how Frank uses his vibrato. I'm going to get that, and I'm going to slow it down until I can do it. Then the solution after that is to start to speed it up until you can do it at his tempo. And if there was anything particularly difficult about his tempo, like it was a little faster, whatever, then I would suggest that you actually maybe go 3 to 5% faster than the original recording and make sure that you can master it at that tempo. And I think you know as a musician what that does. I won't put you on the spot, but it just makes it feel like, okay, this is really easy now because I know I can do it 5% faster. Right? So if it's, you know, it's like, I'm not a pianist, but I do play these scales, right? Can you hear the piano? Yeah, okay. So with Zoom you can't, so I had to ask. Anyway, so if I was trying to learn to play that really accurately, like with a metronome, I would get this, and then I would start to speed it up. And until I could, you know, go pretty fast. But then if I had to actually perform that scale, which in fact I do, then I would want to make sure I could do it actually faster than I would actually use it in teaching to make sure that I don't make a fool of myself in a voice lesson, which happens anyway because live is live, right? Okay, Tony, what else? What other questions do you have on this? Oh, your mic's off for the moment. There you go.
I was thinking throw a link into the chat, so if anybody had any interest in jumping to it, because, and this is not actually a plug, but I'm already getting something out of it that even in our personal sessions, you know, we didn't go over yet. So I'm sort of jumping ahead.
Well, everybody's situations are different. I do start this with my beginners, but you're so affected by your live performing. It's your job, and so technique was more important. You know, making you really comfortable and your larynx floating, and so that's why I waited on this. And that's also why I asked you to be a guest, because I thought, well, this would be great because we can kind of, like you say, jump ahead a little bit. But and we can start to do this in your sessions should you choose. But my priority at this point, knowing what it's like to be a full-time performer, keeping your voice healthy was more important. So we've been focusing on that. And Tony does sing songs, and then I make technical corrections. But again, I would never do this without him here. I would never say, okay, I'm going to make up this exercise for Tony, and then I'm going to send it to him in an email. No. I've got to hear what he does with it. I like to say that if I did that, I'll put my own self on the chopping block. If I was to send Tony a vocal exercise, a technique exercise, song or actual, you know, piano type thing, and then say, okay, you work on it, Tony, and he didn't know exactly what I wanted him to do, I would call myself a deaf and blind voice teacher. I know that's kind of drastic, but really, guys, I would be deaf and blind.
I'm personally a fan of the one-on-one interaction live anyway, because, you know, especially those moments where I'm feeling myself almost drift and you're catching me on.
Your mic went off for some reason. Sorry, Tony, we lost you. We can't hear you. Your voice is gone. You muted your mic again. There we go. Oh, no, I still can't hear. Oh, there you go. Now we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, anyway, so I'm just saying, the one-on-one live interaction, the immediate feedback even something last week, you know, I started to get into a comfortable place, and I sort of lost attention to the placement, and I was just drifting for a moment, and you caught it,
Mhm.
and you know, you just sort of redirected me back into the right spot. And just having that one-on-one makes all the world a difference, you know. And I've done both. I've done the cheating way and listening to other people just, you know, playing it and trying to get it right in my head, and it's nothing like having instant feedback.
Well, obviously, I would agree with that. And I also would say that our long-term goal, Tony, is that you will know what you're doing and you won't need my ear. That doesn't mean that someday, years from now, something bothers you and you don't contact me and say, hey, you know, what's going on here? But again, I wasn't here to pitch technique, but when I teach technique, I teach my students to be like blind musicians. They should know what a G chord feels like on their instrument, or a G note if it's a trumpet or saxophone. They should know exactly what that feels like. So if someone tried to play a trick on them and said, hey, guess what, Tony, you know, Mr. Blind Guy, you're playing a D chord. And you're like, yeah, right. I know exactly what a G chord feels like. It's called proprioception, if you've never heard that term. It's thrown around a lot in athletics, and it's how your body knows kind of what my body kind of knows what my hand's doing right now. I know I'm not going to hit the wall. I knew that even before I put my hand up here. So in athletes' terms, they kind of know where they are in the structures, like soccer players especially. They kind of know where they are in relationship to everybody else, where the ball is, and all that thing that looks like magic if you think about it. It's like, how did he know where that guy was coming from? How did he know that guy was behind him? But in music, it's like internally, proprioception would be, how does it feel in my voice box? What sensations do I get, and how do I master that sensation so that I don't need anybody to tell me what is right, wrong, or indifferent? So singers like I teach, if they really focus, they don't need me after a certain period of time. And I'm not a big believer in creating what would you call dependence on me, so they have to have me for the rest of their life. I would be actually embarrassed if somebody says, oh, I've been with you 3 years now, Brad. I know everything, but I still need you. Well, wait a minute. If you know everything, you don't need me. But sometimes I've had other teachers in my life try to make me dependent on them, and that's not the way I teach. Okay, so we pretty much finished this. And, of course, you know, Tony, feel free to email me any questions you have about this if you're trying to do it and it's driving you nuts. Now the portion of the show where I try to help you all learn without me even being anywhere. And that's over here. I have a QR that you can look up, what's called the Vocal Muse Suite. So there's 30 videos, is why it's called a suite, that explains to a beginner how to do it right from the very beginning, how to use Audacity, how to set up your computer, all that kind of stuff. And then if you are a beginner, I would suggest you go all through all the videos. You can pick any artist you want. That's one of the things I haven't mentioned here. I've implied it. But let's say, no, I want to learn how to do this by Led Zeppelin. You know, Led Zeppelin did a cover of this song. No, maybe I doubt it. But who knows what Robert's up to these days, though. He's went over with Alison Krauss and is doing kind of a country Americana thing. But anyway, you can get a hold of that, and actually just going to the website, you learn a lot about what we just went through. You don't even have to buy it. And then the other QR here is my book. And my book goes heavily into how to sing with emotion. And it does cover this concept of learning from singers. And that reminds me to remind you all that when you are looking at why Frank does this after you master it, ask yourself what emotion drove that phrasing. You may not have an answer, but start asking the question, because it is emotion that's driving his phrasing. Granted, a lot of musical knowledge needed to be there in order for him to do that, but when it all comes down to what Frank is doing, it is 100% emotional expression and storytelling. And the book goes deeply into that, and to a lot of other things, technical things and so forth and so on. So that about wraps it up. there's all kinds of information about me and Tony on the internet if you're interested. I've been to Tony's live shows. He's warm, rich, comfortable with his audience. Very, very pleasant experience, and he's singing more and more with emotion. So when I heard him, he actually had my hairs going up in the back of my neck, and he had his wife thinking, "I'm dancing with him again at my wedding." You know, these are terrific things, terrific abilities. So I highly recommend you see him here in Las Vegas. Where are you at now? What
every Monday at Trattoria Reggiano in downtown Summerlin.
That's a great place.
And
yeah.
every other Thursday at the Composer's Room, and the other Thursday at a place called the Bolkin Room, doing a couple of different shows.
That's great. If you are a live performer and you're looking for work, Vegas is still a hot spot. There's a lot more live work here. If you're trying to get a record contract, then Hollywood, New York's probably better. But here, if you just want to get a gig and make your living at this and have a good time and, be with nice people, and I think it's just everybody I've met's nice here. I know there's some people who think Las Vegas is are really crappy people because they, brings in a lot of gamblers and stuff. But I don't experience those people. I experience the grassroots people. And Tony's one of my really popular experiences. Okay, so we will end the stream here. Please share it, subscribe. We have to put up this cute little thing here. Like and subscribe. Where is it? This did this to me the other day. It didn't come up. Well, forget that then. But anyway, please like and subscribe on my channel so that YouTube will say, "Hey, this guy's hot," and get me out to more and more people so that we can spread this message. Because as I find every time I show this to somebody new, they go, "What? Really, Brad? I've never seen anything like this before." I'm not bragging. I'm just saying this information is not easily available, but it is here, and you can use it without me. And that's why I feel comfortable doing this show. Any last comments, Tony?
Well, just thank you as always. I appreciate everything that you bring to helping me with my learning experience, and I do appreciate. I appreciate the fact that you're one of the few people that I've gone through this with that is trying to just promote good, long-term, healthy singing and not just saying how much am I going to get out of this. You're doing this because you love it and because you care about how it works.
Thank you. Yeah, I see it as win-win. The other concept you mentioned I call win-lose. And actually, win-lose is lose-lose. Lose-lose means that if I hurt you as a person in my negotiation process, if I get more than I deserve and you lose more than you should, then I've still lost. Because I've hurt my ability to go back and trade with you again. Not to say that, I can control your income, but just that if I bleed you, then I can't go back again. So I'm very aware of that.
I have another little note for you.
Oh, cool. Great. You were going to play something for me. Do you want to do that on the live thing? Or
I'm sorry?
you were going to play something for me, too. Do you want to do that live, or should I close the show and then you'll play it for me?
If you want, yeah, let's close the show. I don't think anybody else is. It's that Rolly keyboard. The touch sensitive. So it's going to take a few minutes of just letting me turn it on and set it up. But I did want to say something to you.
You just turned your mic off again, or something cut you out. There, you toggled something again. No, Tony. There you go. It said no. I don't hear you though.
How about now?
There we go. Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah, it just keeps disconnecting. I'll have to watch. I'm gonna get a MIDI mic.
Okay.
So from a practical application, you mentioned a couple of months ago, sort of towards the beginning of when we started getting together, that the more I would let go of technique and use the emotion as the technique becomes more natural. And I would notice the difference in audience appreciation and even level of tips. And I'm going to tell you something, in the last 2.5, 3 weeks, I have noticed a substantial change in both.
I love that story. Thank you. I'll tell you one that really piques everybody's ears. A female student of mine, very pretty, very professional, does lots of piano type and gigs. Some guy, this is in Park City, which is a very wealthy part of Utah where they ski. And some guy came up and gave her a $400 tip. So everybody's thinking, $400 tip. Wonder what he wanted. All he wanted was to show appreciation for her music. He didn't go any farther than that.
Yeah.
And and you know, if you're doing concerts and stuff, it shows up in ticket sales. If you're selling records, it shows up in you know, amount of records purchased. That's a concept that the book gets deeply into, is like, what do audiences want? Why aren't you an audience too? You know, what would you buy if you were going to see Tony's concert? Would you just want to see a bunch of technical stuff and go, oh my God, listen to him singing like that? Maybe you would, because you'd think of it as a voice lesson, but in as an audience, you'd want to feel something, I think, right? So we get into that perspective. So yeah, that's great information. Thank you. I hope I didn't bias you. I told you it would happen. Maybe I should have let it happen more organically. Maybe you've been sneaking tips in on the side there.
Well, I didn't say you get that all coming from my own pocket. No. You know what? I am going to say one other thing too. I'm going to add to it because you just mentioned it, and I'm going to verify it for you. Most of the time in the past, you know, someone would come up and ask for something specific, and they would drop a couple of dollars as a thank you, which I always appreciate.
Yeah.
But I also do notice that probably more than half of the people that are actually coming up now to just show some gratitude are just coming up to show gratitude and appreciation and connect and say, hey, thank you. I really appreciate that you're here. And no regret. And I'll ask them, hey, can I do something for you? No, we just love that you're here. Thank you. And
so
it's
they're
wonderful.
they're not paying they're not paying you to play the song they requested.
Right.
Yeah. So it's after the fact. That's cool. Yeah. Again, you know, I talk a lot about singers not having confidence. This is a confidence builder because it's real. I mean, sometimes applause can even be a lie. You know, you did something and maybe you're really bad at it. You didn't know, you know, because you're a certain level in your career. You don't know. And people are like, you know, and you're like, okay, thank you very much. You know, and then you kind of get, well, I guess I'm okay. You know, I guess I'm pretty good. But when they start putting the money in the tip jar or the applause goes like this and they're standing up, and that's when you say, okay, this is real. I'm having a reaction on the audience. And that's what most of us want as artists. Just besides being an artist, we want also that audience connection. And that's what Tony's saying he's getting. So, wow, yay. My head just got bigger. I hope I can get out the door. At least I'll be able to, at least it doesn't matter how big my head gets to get off the video, but getting out the door might be another challenge. All right. Well, thanks, Tony. Thanks, you all, for watching. And these streams will be erratic because I have private sessions are really my thing. That's what I love doing. But the book's available, the video's available. So watch out for the shows. And if you're a subscriber, you will see the shows coming up. Take care, everybody. Have a great time, and I'll be hanging on here with you, Tony.